People keep telling you to scroll past this, to assume it's noise, to believe that nothing meaningful ever hides behind a quiet moment or an unexpected voice. But I want you to pause, just for a breath, because the most important turns in a life rarely announce themselves with certainty. They arrive softly, often disguised as inconvenience, curiosity, or a strange feeling you can't name. I know this because I've lived long enough to watch ordinary moments become defining ones, and I've watched people talk themselves out of futures they were meant to grow into simply because they were too busy dismissing what didn't fit their expectations. I'm speaking to you not as someone famous, not as a symbol, and not as a headline, but as a mother who has watched a child dream far beyond what was reasonable, practical, or safe. I've watched ambition look foolish before it looked inevitable. I've watched persistence be mistaken for arrogance, and imagination be dismissed as delusion. And through all of that, I learned something that I wish more people were told early in their lives. The world does not reward potential, it rewards endurance. You may feel right now that you are behind. Behind in money, behind in confidence, behind in clarity. You may feel as though everyone else received a map you never got. Let me tell you something gently and honestly, almost no one has a map. They have stories they tell themselves to feel less afraid. The people you admire most were once confused, underestimated, ignored, and doubted, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades. What separates them is not talent alone, but their willingness to stay with the discomfort of not knowing while continuing to move forward anyway. I've seen what happens when a person decides that their curiosity matters more than their fear. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't look glamorous at first. It looks lonely. It looks like long hours with no applause. It looks like being misunderstood and continuing anyway. And it looks like failing publicly and choosing not to let that failure define your identity. If you are in a season of your life where you feel invisible or uncertain, I want you to understand that this season is not a verdict. It is a preparation. There is a quiet lie that circulates in the world, especially now, that says if something is meant for you, it will come easily. That lie destroys more dreams than criticism ever could. Anything meaningful demands something from you. It will demand patience when you want speed. It will demand humility when you want recognition. It will demand discipline when motivation fades. And most of all, it will demand that you take responsibility for your own trajectory instead of waiting for permission or validation. As a mother, I learned early that you cannot protect someone from difficulty without also protecting them from growth. The same is true for you. Every obstacle you resent is shaping a skill you will later rely on. Every delay you curse is teaching you endurance. Every rejection is refining your sense of purpose, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. You are not being punished. You are being trained. You may worry that you are too late, that the best opportunities have passed, that others have already claimed the future. I want you to remember that the future is not a limited resource. It expands for those willing to build it. Age, background, education, and circumstance matter far less than your willingness to learn relentlessly and adapt without ego. The most dangerous sentence you can tell yourself is, "This is just how things are." Nothing important has ever changed because someone accepted that sentence. I've watched the cost of thinking differently. It is expensive. It costs friendships that can't follow you where you're going. It costs comfort. It costs certainty. But it also pays dividends that are impossible to calculate when you're standing at the beginning. The people who change industries, who bend reality forward, who leave marks instead of footprints, are almost never the ones who tried to fit in. They are the ones who tolerated standing out long enough for the world to catch up. If you feel like your mind doesn't rest, like questions keep circling no matter how hard you try to quiet them, don't assume something is wrong with you. Some people are wired to explore. Some people are builders, not caretakers of the status quo. That restlessness you feel is not a flaw. It's a signal. But it must be paired with discipline, or it will burn you instead of guiding you. Dreaming is easy. Executing is everything. I want you to be very careful about what you consume emotionally and intellectually. The voices you listen to become the architecture of your inner world. If you surround yourself with cynicism, you will confuse realism with defeat. If you surround yourself with noise, you will lose the ability to think deeply. Protect your attention. It is one of the most valuable assets you have, and most people give it away without realizing the cost. There will be moments when you want reassurance that the risk you're taking will pay off. I can't give you that. No one honest can. What I can tell you is this: regret is heavier than failure. Failure teaches. Regret corrodes. You can recover from trying and falling short. It is far harder to recover from never trying at all. When you are older, you will not ask yourself why something was difficult. You will ask why you didn't believe in yourself sooner. You don't need to be extraordinary today. You need to be consistent. You need to show up on days when no one is watching. You need to keep learning when praise is absent. You need to develop the quiet confidence that comes from keeping promises to yourself. That kind of confidence cannot be faked, and it cannot be taken away by opinion. I've seen people chase admiration and lose themselves in the process. Don't confuse attention with impact. Attention is loud and fleeting. Impact is often silent and lasting. Focus on building something useful, something honest, something that solves a real problem. Let recognition be a byproduct, not the goal. The moment you start performing for approval is the moment your work loses its soul. If you are struggling right now, financially, emotionally, or mentally, do not shame yourself for it. Struggle is not a moral failure. It is a condition of growth. Ask for help when you need it. Rest when you must. But do not quit on yourself. The world is full of people who gave up not because they were incapable, but because they were exhausted and alone. You are not weak for feeling tired. You are human. What matters is that you continue, even if the pace slows. You may feel pressure to have everything figured out. Release that pressure. Life is not a straight line, it is an experiment. Adjust your course as you learn. Be willing to admit when something no longer fits. Rigidity breaks people. Curiosity saves them. Allow yourself to evolve without apologizing for who you used to be. I want you to remember that your worth is not measured by productivity alone. You are allowed to exist beyond what you produce. You are allowed to enjoy moments that have no strategic value. Joy is not a distraction from success, it is fuel for endurance. Protect it. There will be people who misunderstand you. Let them. There will be people who project their fears onto your choices. That is their burden, not yours. You do not owe the world an explanation for a vision it cannot yet see. Walk forward anyway. One day, you will look back at this version of yourself, the one reading these words, uncertain but still searching, and you will feel gratitude. Gratitude that you didn't scroll past. Gratitude that you stayed open. Gratitude that you kept going when quitting would have been easier. That day will not come because of luck. It will come because of the quiet decisions you make when no one is applauding. Be brave in ways that don't look brave. Be patient in ways that don't look productive. Be kind to yourself in ways that don't look ambitious. All of it matters more than you think, and remember this above all else. The future is not something you wait for. It is something you build, one imperfect, determined step at a time. Before you move on, I want to stay with you a little longer, because there are things people rarely say out loud, and even more rarely say with care. Life has a way of speeding up once you commit to a path, and if you don't pause to understand what you're carrying with you, you risk dragging old doubts into new chapters where they no longer belong. You will discover, if you haven't already, that success has a strange effect on relationships. Some people will celebrate you loudly. Some will quietly disappear. Some will suddenly feel entitled to your time, your energy, your ideas. Learn early how to draw boundaries without bitterness. Generosity does not mean self-erasure. You can be kind without being consumed. You can be ambitious without becoming cold. Balance is not something you find once and keep forever. It is something you practice again and again, especially when life becomes demanding. There will be moments when you question whether the sacrifices are worth it. You will miss events. You will feel disconnected from people who once understood you effortlessly. This does not mean you've chosen wrong. It means you're growing in a direction that requires space. Growth often feels like distance before it feels like arrival. Trust that the people meant to walk with you long-term will adapt, and trust yourself enough not to shrink to keep others comfortable. Pay attention to how you speak to yourself when things go wrong. That voice becomes your companion in solitude. If it is cruel, progress will feel heavier than it needs to be. Replace self-contempt with self-correction. You don't need to punish yourself to improve. You need clarity, honesty, and compassion. The strongest people I know are not those who never doubt themselves, but those who refuse to let doubt become a verdict. There is a myth that confidence comes from certainty. It doesn't. It comes from evidence, small promises kept, small efforts repeated, small wins stacked quietly over time. If you wait to feel ready before acting, you will wait forever. Readiness is built in motion, not in stillness. Take the step. Adjust as you go. Progress favors momentum. Not perfection. You will be tempted to compare your path to someone else's highlight reel. Resist that urge with discipline. Comparison steals focus and replaces it with anxiety. You don't know the cost of their choices, the nights they questioned themselves, or the compromises they made. Measure yourself only against who you were yesterday. That is the only comparison that yields wisdom instead of resentment. At some point, you may reach a goal you once thought would change everything, and you'll feel normal. Don't be alarmed. This doesn't mean the goal was meaningless. It means you've grown into it. Satisfaction is quieter than anticipation. Let that teach you something important. Fulfillment is not a single destination. It is alignment between your values and your actions. Keep refining both. Learn to sit with silence. The world will constantly demand your reaction, your opinion, your outrage. You don't need to answer everything. Some of your best ideas will come when you step back and let your mind wander without pressure. Protect those moments. They are rare, and they are powerful. If you ever feel lost again, and you will, return to fundamentals. Are you learning? Are you contributing? Are you taking care of your health? Are you being honest with yourself? When everything feels complicated, simplicity becomes an anchor. I want you to remember that you are allowed to change your mind. Growth is not betrayal of your past. It is respect for your present understanding. The courage to pivot is as important as the courage to persist. Wisdom lies in knowing the difference. One day, perhaps sooner than you expect, someone will look to you for guidance. They will see strength in you that you don't fully recognize in yourself yet. When that happens, be generous with your truth. Don't pretend the road was smooth. Don't edit out the fear. Let them see that resilience is built, not inherited, and when doubt returns, as it always does, come back to this simple truth: you are not here by accident. Your curiosity, your restlessness, your persistence, even your uncertainty, all have a place in the story you are writing. Keep writing it with intention. Stay awake to your life. Stay brave in quiet ways. And keep going. As this message reaches its end, I want you to understand that endings are rarely conclusions. They are pauses, places to breathe before you step forward again. Whatever brought you here, curiosity, doubt, exhaustion, hope, honor it. You listened for a reason. Something in you recognized that this moment mattered, even if you can't yet explain why. There will be days ahead when the world feels heavy and unresponsive, when effort seems invisible and progress feels theoretical. On those days, remember that momentum is often internal long before it becomes visible. Roots grow in darkness. Strength is built quietly. Just because no one is clapping does not mean nothing is happening. You don't need to prove your worth through suffering. Hard work matters, but so does rest. Ambition without care leads to burnout, not brilliance. Take care of your body. Take care of your mind. Longevity is its own form of success, and endurance is built through respect for your limits, not denial of them. Be cautious of narratives that glorify speed at the expense of substance. The fastest path is rarely the most meaningful one. Depth takes time. Mastery takes repetition. Trust compounds slowly, but when it does, it becomes unshakable. Let yourself build something that lasts rather than something that merely impresses. You will outgrow versions of yourself that once felt permanent. Let that happen without grief. Growth requires shedding identities that no longer fit. You are not losing yourself, you are refining yourself. Each layer removed brings you closer to clarity. there is courage in continuing without certainty. There is dignity in choosing effort over ease. And there is power in believing that your actions today, small, imperfect, sincere, are shaping a future you can't yet see but will one day recognize as your own. If no one has told you recently, let me say it now: you are capable of more than you think, not because you are extraordinary in some mythical sense, but because you are willing to try again when things don't work the first time. That willingness is rare. Protect it, carry forward with patience, with curiosity, with a quiet refusal to give up on the life you sense is possible. You don't need permission to become who you're meant to be. You only need persistence. This is where I leave you, not with answers, but with trust. Trust in your ability to figure things out. Trust in your resilience. Trust that the path will meet you as you walk it. Go gently. Go bravely. And keep building. There is courage in continuing without certainty. There is dignity in choosing effort over ease. And there is power in believing that your actions today, small, imperfect, sincere, are shaping a future you cannot yet see but will one day recognize as your own. If no one has told you recently, let me say it now: you are capable of more than you think, not because you are extraordinary in some mythical sense, but because you are willing to try again when things don't work the first time. That willingness is rare. Protect it, carry forward with patience, with curiosity, with a quiet refusal to give up on the life you sense is possible. You don't need permission to become who you're meant to be. You only need persistence. Go gently. Go bravely. Keep building. Keep believing. And remember that every step you take, no matter how small, matters.